Mr. Chairman, I seek unanimous consent to address the House for 30 minutes and to revise and extend my remarks on the subject of my special order half hour.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I begin, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on the subject of this special order half hour.
Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, Arizona has suffered a year after year after year of record-breaking temperatures. Our summers are getting hotter, lasting longer, and providing little relief at night. This heat is incredibly dangerous for our health and for our economy. Last summer, tragically, more than 600 of our fellow Arizonans lost their lives to the heat. Today, another 406 heat-related deaths in Maricopa County, Arizona, parts of which I have represented for 25 years. Those deaths are under investigation. We are on track yet again to be one of the deadliest areas for heat exposure in this country. That's why I launched the bipartisan Extreme Heat Caucus early this year with Congressman Mike Lawler of New York. At one point this summer, nearly half of the country's population was under an extreme heat warning. So from coast to coast, we are struggling to keep people safe and to fully understand the challenges posed by extreme heat. Extreme heat is a danger to public health, but it also threatens our very way of life. As heat waves get worse, roadways will crack, energy grids will falter, crops will dry out, insurance rates and electric bills will spike. Some Arizonans saw triple-digit increases on their electric bills this summer. More evictions will follow. Frontline workers will stay home or end up hospitalized. Our local economies will lose millions. We have got to take this seriously. But this administration has shown a profound disregard for the problem at hand. From his very first day, President Trump has gutted the federal heat response. Researchers, public health experts, administrators of critical grant programs were caught up in Trump's mass firings. And it's everyday Americans who will pay the price. A senior struggling to balance a tight budget could be left high and dry without LIHEAP funds to cover their electric bills or keep the AC running. A single mother working full-time, worried her child's school won't be able to keep them safe during recess or after-school sports practice. A landscaper growing his small business, diagnosed with kidney disease in his early 30s due to heat exposure. Members of the Extreme Heat Caucus and I are fighting for the federal workforce that handles extreme heat to be reinstated. Their work is critical to combat extreme heat and the greater climate crisis. Without a robust federal heat response, we put countless lives and billions of dollars at risk. The Extreme Heat Caucus is stepping up to change that. We are championing smart, bipartisan actions to combat extreme heat. As the former mayor of Phoenix, I've been focused on heat policy that starts local, where the rubber meets the road. Our cities, counties, and universities are pioneering new ways to combat extreme heat and to respond to heat emergencies, but they're often going at it without proper and adequate funding. My bipartisan bill, the Heat Management Assistance Grant Program Act, will allow states, local governments, our tribal partners to apply for dedicated, fast-release funding to respond to extreme heat events. This funding could be stand-up cooling centers, purchase medical equipment for heat illnesses, or many other critical services. And for families worried about balancing high energy costs with high grocery bills, I've been working to introduce the LIHEAP Parity Act. The bill will fairly and fully distribute LIHEAP dollars to families in cold weather states who need help with their heating bill in the winter, and families in warm weather states like mine who need help with their air conditioning bill in the summer. We still don't know much about the possible impacts of extreme heat on our emergency response. So I'm the ranking member of the Transportation Infrastructure's Emergency Management Subcommittee, and I partnered with Congresswoman Dina Titus on the Extreme Weather and Heat Response Modernization Act, which, among many other things, will study the unexpected impacts of heat on key infrastructure and public health. That study was wrapped into a larger FEMA reform package, and it passed our committee on a huge bipartisan margin. It will form an emergency response advisory panel to study these slow-moving natural disasters like extreme heat. So I'm glad to see the study one step closer to law, and I'll keep working to get the Extreme Weather and Heat Response Modernization Bill across the finish line as well. And I want to thank my colleagues who've come to speak before the House today. They understand the challenge before us. As members of Congress, our most basic duty as elected officials is to keep our constituents and fellow Americans safe. Right now, Congress must rise to the challenge and start actively combating the effects of heat. All of us here agree on this duty before us. Now we have the responsibility to meet this moment and to save lives. It is my great pleasure now to yield to my friend, the gentleman from Virginia, the ranking member of the Labor and Workforce Subcommittee, Education and Labor Subcommittee, Congressman Bobby Scott.
Thank you, and I thank the gentleman for yielding and organizing this special order. Mr. Speaker, this summer, Americans from coast to coast are enduring the hottest temperatures in recorded history. Days are not just uncomfortable, they are life-threatening for millions of workers across the country. From agricultural workers in the fields to warehouse employees to construction crews and factory staff, many are laboring in extreme heat with no federal protection from one of the oldest, most serious, most common workplace hazards, and that is, of course, heat stress. The science is clear. The medical evidence is overwhelming and the moral case is undeniable, yet the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, still lacks a national standard to protect workers from dangerous heat exposure on the job. So in addition to the important legislation mentioned by the gentleman from Arizona to address the issue, I'm a proud co-sponsor of the bill introduced by the gentlelady from California, Ms. Chu, to prevent senseless deaths of workers due to heat. The bill honors the memory of a farm worker who tragically died after working 10 straight hours in 105-degree heat without access to shade, water, or a break. His death was preventable, as are the deaths of so many others happening every year. We've known for a long time that it does not have to be this way. In the 4th century BC, Alexander the Great was counseled to guard against heat stress as his troops marched through the desert. Heat stress is even documented several times in the Old Testament. Our own military adopted a heat stress prevention program in 1952. And I remember when I was in basic training in the Army, when the heat reached certain temperatures, we'd have to loosen the bottom of our pants and stop doing physical training, or PT. The National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, NIOSH, advised OSHA on the need to protect workers from heat stress back in 1972, and again in 1986, and yet again in 2016. Workers have waited long enough, and thanks to Representative Chu's leadership, we've reintroduced a bill that will end delays and excuses and finally bring workers the common sense protection they deserve. Within 1 year, OSHA would be required under the bill to finally issue an enforceable rule setting out the strongest feasible protections against heat illness. It empowers OSHA to require rest breaks and access to water and shaded or cool recovery areas, and training that delivers information in a language and format that workers can certainly understand. These are simple and sensible safeguards that will save lives. As climate crisis accelerates, workers are increasingly at risk. Heat stress is a predictable problem, but it's also a preventable problem. The urgency of the crisis requires us to act now, and this legislation is a roadmap for that action. Workers' lives depend on it. So I want to thank the gentleman from Arizona for forming the Extreme Heat Caucus and for organizing the special order to give us the opportunity to emphasize the importance of this issue. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank you very much, Representative Scott, for your leadership on this important issue and the bill that you referenced. supporting our workforce dealing with extreme heat. That is an important piece of legislation. Mr. Chairman, that is all of our speeches on this important topic of the extreme heat and the extreme heat caucus, so I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.